The moment you choose silence, you have placed a bet on your own soul. You have wagered that your internal peace is stronger than her ability to create chaos. But make no mistake, this is not a passive act. This is not a man simply having nothing to say. The second you stop responding, the clock starts on a psychological war of attrition. She is testing your silence to see if it is a hollow shell or a solid mountain. In this game, there is no second place. There is no silver medal for almost holding your frame. You either maintain your absolute stillness and gain a level of respect that cannot be bought, or you break, you stutter, you explain, and you lose everything. In this deep-seated breakdown, we are going to explore the brutal mechanics of the test. We will look at the Roman Stoic fortress mindset, the psychological phenomenon of the validation gap, and the specific biological pressure that forces an opponent to defeat themselves when they are met with a void. Today, we learn why the person who speaks first is the person who accepts the other's reality. This is the end of your reactive weakness. This is the beginning of your dominance through stillness. If you have ever felt the desperate urge to explain yourself when someone is acting out, you are currently losing the war. By the end of this, you will have the tools to turn your silence into a weapon of mass psychological impact. Nature teaches us that the most effective force in any environment is the one that dominates through total, unyielding stillness. Think of the black panther in the midnight jungle. It is a shadow within a shadow. It does not growl to show its strength because it knows that noise is a waste of energy. It does not pace nervously to prove it is there because it has no ego to satisfy. It sits on a high branch, perfectly motionless, blending into the dark canopy. Its prey is looking for movement, for noise, for a sign of an attack. But because the panther offers nothing, no sound, no shadow, no vibration, the prey's own senses begin to fail. The prey becomes overconfident. It exposes its neck because it assumes the void is empty. When you stay silent during a test, you are the shadow. You are forcing the other person to expose their true intentions because they have nothing to react to but the vacuum you have created. Most men are like barking dogs, they make noise to hide their fear. But the panther is silent because it is the master of the environment. When she tests you with a snarky comment or an emotional withdrawal, she is looking for your scent. She wants to see if you are agitated. When you offer her the silence of the panther, she begins to panic. She realizes she is no longer the one hunting for your attention, she is the one being observed. This shift in the internal hierarchy is the first step toward absolute dominance. The disciplined mind understands that every test is, at its core, a hierarchy check. It is a measurement of who belongs to whom. Think of Marcus Aurelius at the height of his Roman power. He was the most powerful man on earth, yet he was surrounded by people constantly trying to provoke a reaction. He had senators looking for a crack in his armor, family members looking for an emotional favor, and enemies looking for a temper flare that would prove he was unfit to lead. Aurelius wrote in his private journals that the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. He treated his mind like a citadel, a stone fortress with walls so thick that the screams of the world could not penetrate them. When people threw insults at the walls of the citadel, he didn't lean over the ramparts to shout back. He didn't send out messengers to explain his side of the story. He stayed inside the center of his own soul, focused on his own virtue and his own mission. He knew that the citadel doesn't move just because a few stones are thrown at it. If the king comes out to argue with a peasant, the king has effectively demoted himself to the level of the peasant. This is the Iron Gate strategy. When she pings you with a test, whether it is a withdrawal of affection, a silent treatment, or a direct insult, most men rush to the gates to defend themselves. They start typing long paragraphs. They start asking what is wrong or how can I fix this? But by defending yourself, you are admitting that the attack reached you. You are admitting that her words have the power to move the king from his throne. When you remain silent, you are signaling that the gate is not even being touched. You are unbothered, not because you are being petty, but because your internal world is occupied with a higher purpose. You are busy building your kingdom while she is busy throwing pebbles. To understand why this works, we must look at the neurological malfunction that occurs when you refuse to react. Human beings are fundamentally social animals, and our brains are hardwired for feedback loops. When someone acts out, they are initiating a biological handshake. They put out a hand of chaos, and they expect you to grab it with a hand of reaction. This is how emotions are transferred from one person to another. It is a form of energy synchronization. When you refuse to shake hands with her chaos, her brain experiences a massive surge of cortisol, the stress hormone. Because she expects a reaction and receives a void, her brain goes into an emergency loop. This is known as cognitive dissonance. She has to decide, is her behavior ineffective, or are you just that much more powerful than her? Without your reaction to hide behind, she is forced to see her own behavior in high definition. It is like screaming into a canyon and hearing no echo. Eventually, the person screaming realizes how ridiculous they sound. Your silence acts as a magnifying glass for her own toxicity. It forces her to sit in the wreckage of her own drama until she is the one who has to clean it up. This leads us to the validation gap. In any high-stakes interaction, the person who feels the need to break the silence first is the person who is lower on the hierarchy. They are the ones who cannot handle the tension of the unknown. They are the ones who need the noise of a conversation to feel secure. By holding your silence, you are winning the war of attention. You are proving that you are comfortable in the void. Most men are terrified of silence because they think it means they are losing her. But in reality, the man who can sit in a silent room the longest is the man who holds all the cards. He is the one who doesn't need external validation to know he is okay. As you move through this test, you must be prepared for the peak of the conflict. In psychology, this is called the extinction burst. Think of it like a light bulb that flickers at its brightest right before it burns out. When a behavior is no longer getting a reaction, the person will not stop immediately. Instead, they will double down. They will get louder, more desperate, and more provocative. They are trying to find a breaking point where the old you, the reactive you, still lives. This is where 90% of men fail. They hold their silence for an hour, but when she says that one specific thing that hits their ego, they explode. And the moment you explode, you have taught her that your silence is just a temporary wall that can be broken with enough pressure. You have given her the blueprint to defeat you next time. But the man of discipline knows that a storm has no core. It is all wind and noise. If you stand still, the storm will eventually pass you and blow itself out. It has to. No one can maintain that level of chaos without a reaction to fuel it. When the extinction burst hits, that is your signal that victory is minutes away. Do not blink. Do not move. Let the wind howl until the air is still again. You are the architect of the void. You have created a space where her drama has no fuel and no audience. In that quiet, respect is not something you beg for, it is something that is demanded by your sheer presence. You are no longer a puppet reacting to the strings of someone else's mood. You are the source of order in your own life. You are the still point in a turning world. When the test is finally over, and it will end, she will look at you with a new sense of fear and attraction. She will realize that you are not a man who can be managed. She will realize that your peace is more important to you than her presence. And ironically, that is the only thing that will make her want to stay. A woman cannot respect a man she can move with a single sentence. She can only respect the man who is as unmovable as the earth itself. Stop explaining. Stop defending. Stop blinking. The world is full of noise, but your power is found in the quiet. Once you master the art of holding your silence during the test, you realize that you have already won the only war that matters, the war over yourself. The game is over. The throne is yours. If this message has hardened your resolve and given you the clarity to stay still, hit the like button and subscribe to join this community of the quiet mind. We are the ones who stay still while the rest of the world spins out of control. We are the ones who rule the quiet. Stay in the center. Stay still. The victory is already yours.